all of us, the organisers and attendees, for hosting this event in this beautiful city, Valencia, definitely one of my favourite cities in the world. And as you say, you know, this is an issue we're facing that requires the collective commitment and ingenuity and innovation of everybody in the room and beyond. So thank you again, and we're looking forward to a very productive debate. So without further ado, please allow me to welcome and introduce Isabelle Ryckbost, speaking on behalf of the European Seaports Organisation, to give some views on the issue we're all here for, the green ports. Isabelle.
Just organizing myself.
Doing that
good morning, everyone, distinguished guests. Good morning, Mr. President. It's an honor and a pleasure for me to be here at this 13th Greenport Conference. It's an honor also to be here in Valencia, and I'm asked also to present, and we want to launch today the ESPO Environmental Report 2018. But before doing that, I would like to thank Greenport for setting up this annual rendezvous, I would say, with all the sustainable, the port professionals on environment. I think it's a very nice conference, and we can always hold it back to back with our Committee Sustainable Development, and now also our cruise network meetings. So that is a very good setting, I think. I also would like to congratulate the Port of Valencia with all their efforts on environmental policy, the environmental policy they are pursuing. Valencia is always PER certified port and has also many other certifications. And I think it shows that environment is really a red line in the port's decision-making strategy. And not without results, because as the President was saying, I also noted that in the last 6 years the carbon footprint has gone down by 17%. So I think it shows that growth, cargo growth, and sustainability can perfectly go together. But let me now turn to the Environmental Report 2018. We made this report over the last years, but we decided this year we always try to do a bit better, and now to professionalize it a bit, give it a look and feel, let's say. And the report is based on the data of all the EcoPort members. And so we have this as the basis, because when they enter into the EcoPorts network, they have to reply to a series of questions. It's the EcoPort self-diagnosis method, and so based on that we make this report. But I would like, because my merit is here to very limited, I present the results of the report, but the report has been made by Rosa Marie Darbra here in the room, and she will also in the afternoon give some more explanations on that. Also Marty Puig from the University of Catalonia both, Chris Woolrich, of course, from Cardiff University, and of course Sotiris Raptis, our senior advisor environment and the EcoPort coordinator. So I really would like to thank all of them for putting this together and for all the work done on that. But now the report, 90 ports, the data we have collected, or we were able to collect the data of 90 ports. And I would like to show the sample. There you see the list of countries represented in the sample. We have 19 countries and Norway, in fact, 19 EU member states, because we made the report only on EU and Norway in this case. And you see that Spain is best represented in the number of ports participating, followed by the United Kingdom, or same even with the United Kingdom. But we must also say that if we would count it on volumes compared to the country, because you also have countries with one big port or only one port, then it could give also another how do you say it, list. But anyway, I think we see that a lot of countries are participating. Of course, we would love that we have 24 countries participating, and we hope we have that for the next years. On the kind of ports, the geographical characteristics, you also see that there is that it's quite balanced between embayment, coast, protected coast, marine, inlet ports, estuary ports, ports with an engineered coastline, and ports on the river. So this you see as well that there is, it's very well represented. Then what we also try to see is in the sample how many ports are TEN-T ports, how many ports are in the core network, and how many ports are in the comprehensive network. And we think this is also very relevant because a lot of environmental legislation and European legislation is linked to the scope is linked to being a TEN-T port or not. So we see that 83% are TEN-T ports in the sample. And then this brings me to the first indicator, that is the progress, the first progress of the environmental management index over the years. And this is made by a set of indicators, and we see here this set of indicators, and it's about existence of certified environmental management systems. It's so how many ports have an inventory of relevant legislation, are there definitions or targets for environmental improvement. So a list of indicators, and I think the highest, what you see is that the highest score of 97% is going for the inventory of relevant environmental legislation. This means that all these ports at 97%, so that most of the ports and the people working in the port, they are through this inventory aware of the legislation that is applicable to them. So that's, we think it's very important. What that also strikes me is that 93% have defined targets for environmental performance. And then another parameter is in 2013, half of the ports had a certified environmental management scheme. We now see that more than 7 on 10 ports have a certified environmental management scheme. We also see a small negative point, and we should be honest about that, that there is a small decline in the training programs for port employees on environment. So all these indicators, they give them a score on the environmental management index. I leave behind how this is calculated, and I think that Rosa Marie is very much a lot better to explain how this all is calculated. But we see a progress, and we now have 8.08 on 10 on this score, which I think, if you see the evolution since 2013, it's going up, and that's good news. So then another indicator is the which kind of certificates the ports have. Then we see that 53%, so more than half of the ports are ISO certified. We see 90% have the PER certification, and then there are some ports who combine or who have different certificates. You see it also the smaller parts in the graph, but this gives you an interesting slide or division of who and in which certificates ports are. So then we have the communication indicators, and I think this is very important because it reveals the transparency of the ports, and we see it's also something we want to achieve with this report, is to be more transparent on how we perform in the environmental field. And we see it also that the ports are increasingly prepared to be transparent on that. So we see that 88% are communicating their environmental policy to all the relevant stakeholders. This means you cannot see we do something, but we do not explain it, because and that this is the second parameter, 84%. If you make it publicly available on your website, then you cannot hide. I mean, you have to you promise to do something, you promise to have a certain legislation, to apply it, then you cannot hide if it's on your website, you can be accounted for. Then what kind of indicators, what kind of environmental issues are the board's monitoring? We think that is also a very important indicator, and we see the biggest one is, it's in a descending order, is waste. Waste is the indicator or the environmental issue that is most monitored by the boards. It's followed by energy consumption, noise and air quality is increasing, and then we see also other issues that are stable, and we see on carbon footprint, for instance, that just not half of the boards are monitoring it. It looks lower than the other indicators, but we also think that carbon footprint is also quite a complicated issue to monitor. We have had also in ESPO the discussions on how to do it and so on, and it's not easy. It's also quite a recent indicator for many ports, so we think that if almost half of the ports are monitoring that, it's also a good sign. We have also added a new indicator on climate change, linked to climate change, and so we see that 78% of the ports consider climate change adaptation when they develop new infrastructure projects. More than half of the ports are taking steps to strengthen the resilience of their existing infrastructure in order to adapt it to climate change, and a bit less than half of the ports experience operational challenges already that could be related to climate change, so floodings, extreme weather conditions, and so on. Then this is one, maybe now in a new format that you have seen, at least the ESPO members over the last years. It's our famous top 10 that we already have since 1993, in fact, where we ask the board, which are your main environmental concerns? And you will see that there is, with the colors, you can see it very clearly. Normally you should see it very clearly, that there is a clear block of the top 3 that is very stable since 2016, with air quality on top, energy consumption as second, and noise as third. Even air quality has been number 1 since 2013. And what's interesting to see is also that the green block, so the relationship with the community, the port-city relations, that this has gone up again. And this is also very much linked, we think, to the air quality number 1 and to the noise. And we see an activation again of the port-city challenge. Go a bit too fast. No. The before.
You're at the beginning.
Yeah, there we are. Sorry about that. So, noise is number 3, and it's gaining in importance since 2004, and we also think that is linked to this port-city relation. The citizens are getting more active and on all these issues. Ship waste is this year a bit higher. This might be a bit related to the revision of the Waste Reception Facilities Directive. We see that dredging and water quality goes down a bit, but we see that the land-related port development is slightly up. I would also like to say that we will tweet the report. We will also send it to everyone, so you will get the full report in your mailboxes, probably today or tomorrow. Then another important thing is the green services to shipping. You know that at European level we have the Alternative Fuel Infrastructure Directive that obliges the core network ports to have LNG bunkering facilities by 2025 and to have OPS also in principle by this date. We see that OPS, to have OPS on one or more berths, 51% have this of the ports who participated in the survey. They have this OPS. With one, you have high voltage and low voltage. Some of them have both. The low voltage is more for inland shipping, for auxiliary, so less for seagoing vessels. We are, in that respect, we always see that the uptake of OPS is difficult. You know that there is also a disadvantage to use OPS, a price disadvantage. It's the fuel generated on board of ships is exempted from tax, whereas the OPS has to pay the excise duties, and we were very happy to read that now Spain is one of the countries, together with Denmark, Sweden, and Germany, to have this exemption. It has been just decided, so that is very good news, I think. So then the LNG, 30% of the ports have bunkering facilities, so that goes up. So that is, I think, also a very good news. Then we see that, I go to the next slide. What you see, if you have the LNG, how is it provided? Then we see, and this is the whole, compared to the whole sample of ports, also the ones who, because it might be a bit misleading, it's also the ones who do not have LNG bunkering system. But we see that in the majority of the cases, so the LNG bunkering goes by truck, a little bit by barge, and then 2% only have a non-mobile installation. So that brings me to the end, and here you have the top 10 in another feature. And what I would like to say is that we think that a lot of progress has been made, and we see that the ports have it really on top of their agenda environment. What we would like is to have, instead of 19 countries being in the sample, to have 24 countries in the sample, all the maritime EU member states. We would also like to maybe work on more indicators, so that in next year report we can show you even more. We see that certification is going up, transparency is going up, the training programs on environment are going down. We also think that the top 10 is very much reflecting the concerns that ports but also citizens have nowadays. We also hope to strengthen all that, and I would like to thank once again Rosa Mari, Martin and Chris and Sotiris for working on this report. Thank you.